Tonight, the United Kingdom finds itself at a terrifying crossroads. We are witnessing a collision of events so massive that they threaten to rewrite the British Constitution and redraw the map of global power. From the tropical waters of the Indian Ocean to the gilded halls of Buckingham Palace, a drama is unfolding that the mainstream media is desperate to sanitize. But we are pulling back the curtain. We are talking about a secret £30 billion deal to surrender strategic territory, a direct plea for help sent to Donald Trump, and a historic royal revolt that has left Westminster in total, unmitigated chaos. Is this the moment the British state finally fractures? Or is it the beginning of a national awakening? This is the story of the great 2026 British collapse. Let's start with the bombshell that dropped just hours ago from the Indian Ocean. For over half a century, the Chagos Islands have been a cornerstone of Western security. At the heart of this archipelago lies Diego Garcia, a tiny atoll that serves as the most important military base on the planet. It is the unsinkable aircraft carrier from which the West projects power into the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. It is a place of absolute secrecy and immense strategic value. But tonight, that value is being traded away. The British government has finalized a treaty to cede sovereignty of these islands to Mauritius. But this isn't just a simple handover. Sources indicate that the true cost of this deal, when all side agreements and reparations are tallied, could soar toward a staggering £30 billion over the lifetime of the agreement. Why is this happening? The government claims they are simply following international law. They point to an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice which suggested that the detachment of the islands from Mauritius in the 1960s was unlawful. But here is the reality: that opinion was non-binding. It was a suggestion, not a mandate. Yet, the current administration in Westminster is treating it like a moral emergency. Critics are asking the question every taxpayer is thinking. Why are we paying a foreign nation billions of pounds to take our most strategic asset? Why are we surrendering the keys to the Indian Ocean at a time when global tensions are at a boiling point? The security implications are nothing short of a nightmare. Mauritius has deep and growing economic ties with China and Russia. By surrendering sovereignty, the UK is introducing a third party into a military relationship that used to be strictly between London and Washington. Once Mauritius holds the sovereignty, they hold the leverage. They could theoretically restrict nuclear-capable vessels, allow foreign research ships into the surrounding waters, or even use the base as a bargaining chip in future global conflicts. The Pentagon is reportedly in a state of quiet panic. They see a 99-year lease as a fragile shield that could be shattered by a change in Mauritian government or a shift in geopolitical winds. Why is this happening? The government claims they are simply following international law. They point to an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice which suggested that the detachment of the islands from Mauritius in the 1960s was unlawful. But here is the reality: that opinion was non-binding. It was a suggestion, not a mandate. Yet, the current administration in Westminster is treating it like a moral emergency. Critics are asking the question every taxpayer is thinking. Why are we paying a foreign nation billions of pounds to take our most strategic asset? Why are we surrendering the keys to the Indian Ocean at a time when global tensions are at a boiling point? The security implications are nothing short of a nightmare. Mauritius has deep and growing economic ties with China and Russia. By surrendering sovereignty, the UK is introducing a third party into a military relationship that used to be strictly between London and Washington. Once Mauritius holds the sovereignty, they hold the leverage. They could theoretically restrict nuclear-capable vessels, allow foreign research ships into the surrounding waters, or even use the base as a bargaining chip in future global conflicts. The Pentagon is reportedly in a state of quiet panic. They see a 99-year lease as a fragile shield that could be shattered by a change in Mauritian government or a shift in geopolitical winds. But perhaps the most heartbreaking element of this surrender is the betrayal of the Chagosian people. These are the descendants of the original inhabitants who were forcibly removed decades ago. For years, they have fought for the right to return to their homes. You would think that returning the islands to Mauritius would be what they wanted, but it isn't. The Chagosian government in exile, led by First Minister Miss Ley Mundering, has made it clear that they do not identify as Mauritian. They want to remain under the British Crown. They see the UK and the US as their only hope for a stable and secure future. In an act of pure desperation, Mundering has bypassed the British government entirely. He has sent a direct, personal letter to Donald Trump, urging the former president to intervene and block the deal. The letter warns that surrendering the islands isn't just a betrayal of a people, it's a betrayal of Western security. The Chagosians have even offered a symbolic gesture that has set the internet on fire. They have promised to name an island after Trump if he can save their homeland from the £30 billion handover. This is the sound of a people who have lost all faith in the politicians in London and are looking for any ally who will listen. While the Chagos scandal was breaking, a second, even more historic crisis was erupting in the heart of London. At exactly 2:15 p.m. today, Prime Minister Keir Starmer arrived at Buckingham Palace. He was there for what everyone expected to be a routine audience. He carried with him the Digital Identity and Migration Control Bill, a massive piece of legislation designed to introduce biometric tracking, facial recognition, and a centralized digital ID for every person in Britain. It was supposed to be a rubber stamp moment. After all, a British monarch hasn't refused royal assent since Queen Anne in 1708. But King Charles did the unthinkable. According to 3 high-level palace sources, the king sat the Prime Minister down and looked him directly in the eye. He reportedly said 6 words that will be etched into history: "I cannot in good conscience approve this." The room went cold. Starmer, who is used to having his way in Parliament, was reportedly stunned into silence. The king then slid a 40-page legal opinion across the desk, a document authored by the legendary Lord Sumption, one of the most respected legal minds in the country. The opinion argued that the Digital ID Bill was a fundamental breach of the British constitutional settlement. It argued that the state was attempting to seize a level of control over the individual that was incompatible with a free society. What followed was a confrontation that some are describing as borderline treasonous. The Prime Minister allegedly reminded the king that he is a ceremonial figurehead, not a politician, and that Parliament is the supreme authority. He warned the king that monarchs who forget their place often find themselves on the wrong side of history. But King Charles did not flinch. He remained calm and resolute, stating that his coronation oath required him to protect the laws and customs of the people, and that this bill was an assault on both. Starmer reportedly stormed out of the palace, his face flushed with rage, failing to give the customary bow. He sped back to Downing Street, where an emergency cabinet meeting was called immediately. Inside number 10, the scene was one of absolute chaos. The Home Secretary reportedly threw a binder across the room. Ministers were shouting. The realization was sinking in. The government's flagship surveillance program had been stopped dead by the one person they thought they could ignore. Within 90 minutes, the palace released an unprecedented formal statement. It cited constitutional precedents dating back centuries, arguing that the Crown has a reserve power to protect the people from executive overreach. The statement warned that the bill granted the government surveillance powers without sufficient judicial oversight. It was a clear, public declaration of war between the Crown and the Commons. The public reaction has been like nothing we've seen in modern times. As news of the royal revolt spread, thousands of people began to gather outside the palace gates. Before we begin, like this
these
video
weren't organized
political activists, in-depth coverage of the stories shaping global power and democracy.
They were waving
because
Union
what is
flags
unfolding
and
in
chanting
Britain
God
right
save
now
the
could
King.
redefine the future of the
For the
monarchy
first time
itself.
in generations,
the
over
monarchy
5
wasn't just a
million
symbol
people
across
across
the
the
United
it had
Kingdom
become a
have
shield
taken
for
a
the
step
future.
never seen in modern British
Spontaneous
history. And as
cheers
you
broke
broke
out
out
in
in
pubs
King
and on
Charles
street
has less than
corners.
48 hours to make a decision
snap
that
poll
could define
conducted
his
this
reign.
evening
Suggests that a staggering
Britain is now
68%
facing
of
its
the
most
public
serious
supports the
constitutional
king's
decision.
confrontation in more than 2
Even
centuries.
among Labour
A
voters,
collapsing
more
government,
than
a
60%
furious
say the
public,
king was right
and a
to
monarch
stand
trapped
up for
between
civil
2
liberties.
impossible choices. Protect
Meanwhile,
democratic
the political
legitimacy
fallout
or risk
is spreading
lasting
like a
damage to the
wildfire.
crown.
This is not
Resignations have
rumour or
already
speculation.
begun. It is unfolding right now behind Palace Gate, inside publishing Westminster, a scathing letter and across the streets of Britain's largest Prime Minister who has fundamentally misunderstood how the constitutional balance of the nation. We need to rewind just a few weeks. Several junior ministers have followed suit. The situation looked familiar. There are whispers that the Deputy Prime Minister is already preparing for ministers were under pressure, believing that Starmer's authority has been permanently shattered by the confrontation. And then everything impact on the wider political landscape. A single petition appeared on Nigel Farage and Reform UK are seeing a surge in support that has crashed their membership servers. Farage spoke to reporters this evening, praising the King for remembering ordinary people. He pointed out that while the government spends billions on surveillance and surrenders strategic territory, the actual needs of the people, from healthcare for veterans to the housing crisis, are being ignored. In just 3 hours, Reform UK reportedly raised over £1 million in small donations. The political map is being redrawn in real time.
The United Kingdom stands at a terrifying crossroads.
The United Kingdom is in uncharted waters.
Westminster erupted as
we have a government that is trying to trade away our security for £30 billion and a monarch who is standing in the doorway to stop the march of the surveillance state.
This is not a drill. And
this is more than just a bad week for the Prime Minister. This is a systemic crisis.
What could become the most dramatic and rapid collapse of a British government in modern history.
Will the government back down on the Chagos deal?
Who campaigned on a pledge to restore adult leadership and trust to the heart of government,
or will they try to retaliate against the King, setting off a Republican crisis that could tear the country apart?
Behind the black door of number 10, sources
the next 72 hours will be the most critical in our lifetime.
Reportedly lashing out at his
Parliament
own cabinet as
reconvenes
panic
tomorrow
spreads
for an
through
emergency
the building like
session.
wildfire.
The streets are still full of people.
The question being asked across the country tonight is no longer whether Starmer can survive the week, but how many hours he actually has left.
We are witnessing history in the making.
What is unfolding right now has sent shockwaves through the corridors of power and far beyond,
or has he started a fire that can't be put out?
Feels it has reached a breaking
point. Is the £30 billion Chagos deal the ultimate proof that our leaders have lost their way?
The atmosphere in the Commons shifted
instantly. Drop your comments below.
MPs gasped,
your voice matters more now than ever.
Their seats, and Starmer's
like
face,
this video,
usually
share
so
it with everyone you know,
detached,
and hit that subscribe button.
Color.
The mainstream media won't tell the truth about what happened inside that palace room today,
and certainly
but we will.
Not this soon.
Thanks for watching,
but this political
and we will see
earthquake
you as this story continues to develop.
Systemic failures that have been building beneath the surface for 8